the top of the mountain. Yeah, we've heard our way up to the top of the mountain. Yeah, we never coming down from the top of the mountain.
What's yours?
I'm gonna come through that screen, grip you around the neck, and tell you to hit that subscribe button. Hey guys, hope everybody is well. Now I'm with a gentleman today. You'll hope you'll know him. It's Ross Edgley. He is the one and only man to swim around the UK. He's done an extortionate amount of stupid things. That's the only thing I can describe it. Stupid things. He did a marathon pushing a mini.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you swim the channel pulling a log? You swam around the whole of the UK. Fill me in, Ross. What stupid things have we done throughout our lifetime? Because I've done many myself.
Yeah, I think when you start listing them, you look back and you go, yeah, that's a really weird CV that I've got. But yeah, climbed a rope, the height of Everest.
You climbed a rope the height of Everest?
Yes, it was a 20-meter rope, and we repeatedly climbed it until 8,848 meters. It was a terrible idea, that one. Raised loads of money for the Teenage Cancer Trust, which kind of made it all worthwhile, but my hands are still sort of forgiving me for that one.
And your penis.
That didn't climb the rope. What technique are you using?
What about the grip after you get all them calluses?
Oh, right. Sorry, I was wondering what technique you were using to climb a rope. I was trying to figure that out. I was like, weird biomechanics, that one, Eddie. And then, yeah, and then it just sort of stemmed from there, and then it culminated, I think, in obviously the swim around Great Britain, 157 days, 1,780 miles, and that's essentially how we caught up, though, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's how you got my attention, and I think that's how you got most of the world's attention, is when you swimming around the UK, and how many thousands of people came to meet you at certain points around, to show the support. And literally I had friends that, I went down to, I think it was Dover, or was it Grimsby? I can't remember. But they thought, I'm going to go see Ross Edgley this weekend. And I was like, who's he? What's he doing? And they said it, and it was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So it took you 157 days.
Yeah.
Just tell me how that worked. So I think from memory, you have to do so many hours in the water, jump on the boat, anchor down, eat, refuel, hours sleep, get back in. Repeat.
Exactly that, yeah. So in theory, the tide works with you for 6 hours, against you for 6 hours, with you. So it doesn't matter if the tide changes at 2 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you have to be there. So those times, like, I remember Aberdeen, scraping a thin layer of ice off my wetsuit, 2 o'clock in the morning. You just think, like, what are you doing? Like, I love what you just said there, because the theory is so simple. Like, just swim for 6 hours on, 6 hours off for 157 days, and you swim around Great Britain. It's as simple as that.
Easy.
It's kind of the same. It's simply kind of like with the half-ton deadlift, that when you put it down on paper, you're like, yeah, that's all you have to do. You just have to lift half a ton off the floor. Yeah, but getting there is a different story.
Yeah.
And I think that was why, I suppose, having witnessed, the half-ton deadlift and being a fan of yours for so long, it was so nice that when we caught up, we sort of shared that mentality. Although it was very different, mine's in the endurance realm, yours is in strength. It was just the fact that when my tongue was falling off, for instance, for those who don't know, woke up, bits of my tongue on my pillow, equally chowing down with the team.
I must admit, I did a bit of research into that, a bit of a diving in, and I saw the footage of you. Literally, your tongue was like, I can't really describe it, like a descaling snake, just like skin coming off. Your mouth was obviously just so sore. You had cuts on your neck from your swimsuit. You had stings all over your body from jellyfish. What other problems did you run into?
Yeah, they were some of the worst, because it's just like the human body's not meant to be in salt water for 12 hours a day every single day for 5 months. Just not meant to.
Yeah.
So yeah, your skin was so fragile. It was just kind of just eroding. My tongue was falling apart. But then I think some of the things as well, I'm glad you touched upon the jellyfish, because obviously it's not pleasant just getting teabagged by jellyfish. My record was like 12 in a single tide. It was through Scotland.
Wow.
And because you literally couldn't see the hand in front of your face. Across the Moray Firth, for instance, there's no light. There's, even the moon didn't really offer much in terms of like helping you to sight. So
were you just running off like a light on the boat?
Yeah.
Just so that they were sort of guiding you in a way.
Is exactly
Sure you
that.
were into cliffs and stuff.
Yeah, but then knowing that, I could just have a jellyfish there, and I did, sometimes just smack, like straight in the face. So you get
it would just wrap around.
Oh, all the tentacles. Yeah, all of the tentacles in your face. And then, but it wasn't even the pain. And this is one thing that, for those who watched the series and everything, a lot of the sort of footage that we didn't capture, like the way that if you're stung by 12 jellyfish in a single 6-hour tide, the toxins seep into your body. So your face is hurting, but it more attacks your central nervous system.
Right.
And then you're shouting to the marine biologists on board and you're going, I've been hit. And they're like, right, what by? And I'm like, jellyfish. And they go, no problem. What sort? And I'm like, I have no idea. Because I can't see it.
12 different kinds.
Yeah. So with all of those toxins and that cocktail of the different jellyfish, your central nervous system starts being attacked. So you're scratching and it's just like going down your leg.
Oh, man.
And you should be sleeping for those 6 hours and resting for the next tide, but there's just been times where they caught me like walking around in my trunks, like semi-naked on the deck, just trying to sort of soothe my skin with the wind. And it was that, knowing that, are you just going to keep doing that? Swimming is the easy part. It's like, are you going to keep just getting motorboated by jellyfish, tide after tide for 5 months? And that's what became weird. It wasn't a swim anymore, because that wasn't the limiting factor. Probably exactly the same with the deadlift. Like, it's not just the deadlift, it's everything else, from like the recovery from the food, from the sacrifices to your social life, all of that. That's how you deadlift half a ton. And I think it's the same with the swim.
What was your skin like? Did your hands, because I know if you go in water for too long, you get you call it trench foot and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what did you get? Did you get web feet?
That was nice. No, I wish I'd have been done quicker if they'd have actually But no, there was weird. Like, I did start to morph like a little bit. Like, so I remember I started, and it was
morph.
It was
like seen Swamp Thing.
That was it. That was it. Oh, by the end, because I started, I remember I was lean, and it was like the summer, so I even had a bit of a tan, and I was great at pool swimming. There's such a difference, or swimming in a lake. But what we did was sea swimming. It wasn't even sea swimming like off the coast. It's like you're going down the Irish Sea, you're going across the Bristol Channel. So it's sea swimming, but not how. It's more like sailing. You're basically, that's. And so I remember, turning up at Margate at the start, and I was lean, I could see my abs, and I was like, yeah, I feel good, I'm so quick in the pool. Looking at my split times, I felt pretty good about myself. No, none of that mattered. And when I was out there, I ended up, like I said, people were like, you're going to lose so much weight. They thought I was going to come back like Tom Hanks from Castaway.
Yeah.
I left.
Well, you did a little bit.
Well, just like that. But I come back, I left 91 kilos, I came back 105.
Whoa. Yeah. So you're telling me you put 9 kilos on? No, is that right? 9 kilos?
More, over 10. Yeah, so it was 14 kilos-ish.
Wow, 14 kilo.
Yeah, but it was weird, because it wasn't like people go, oh yeah, you put on. No, it wasn't a good.
So you're having super high dense calorie foods.
Yeah.
So what, like cheesecakes, spag balls, and stuff like that.
And we spoke about that though, because you were doing the same. Like you would go through a cheesecake a day.
Oh yeah,
in your peak?
A family cheesecake a day. Yeah.
As a snack.
As a snack. Thank you, darling.
Is there any more?
Excuse me.
No.
He says.
No.
Excuse me. The wives just bought me a Crunchy Blast. Cadbury's.
They need to sponsor this podcast.
They do. Cadbury, if you want to get in touch about sponsorship, then I suggest you snap me up quick before somebody else does, okay?
This is now, she's going to turn into like about a 5-minute segment of you seductively eating an ice cream.
Oh my god.
I'm going to be honest.
That's so rude.
I've been on stranger podcasts. But I like it.
Would you admittedly say that weight you put on was fat or muscle?
Oh, it was weird because it was, when I used the term like morphing, it was like it was sea bulk. Like it wasn't muscle and it wasn't fat. It was just this weird.
I'm looking.
It was weird, but also even like the atrophy in my legs. So I lost so much muscle mass, not only muscle mass but bone density in my legs because I was taking like 10 steps a day to get back on the boat. You know, that was it.
So there's no actual sort of pressure on the bones as such at any point.
Is exactly it. And when we got back, we ended up performing a bit of an autopsy at Loughborough University, because you know where they tested you? Yeah, so they ended up doing something similar with me, and they were just like, it's weird, your body, the only thing we've seen similar is like an astronaut, you know, the way that they will come back from space, and because of it's been in this weird anti-gravity environment, you're not using your, like I said, ligaments, tendons, everything like that had just shriveled up. Right. So it was weird, and for months afterwards, really, it was like I wasn't quite right. Like I love fell running, and I'd go try and run, and just, you know, be overtaken. My Achilles would be on fire. It was weird, and I know it was kind of similar that people probably remember, you know, the half-ton deadlift and that kind of heroic moment and the great picture and the crowd and everyone. But there was weeks, months afterwards that were not good.
But the thing took you weeks and months. 157 days, so what's that in months? Like 4 months?
Yeah, 4 or 5 months, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You had problems with your teeth as well?
Yeah, that was, I went to the dentist afterwards and checked in. He's a good friend of mine, you know, Raj, so we can be so like honest with each other, and he was just like, oh, what's happened with your tongue? What's happened with your teeth? Everything, because eating 10,000, 15,000 calories a day, but not only that, but like the salt water as well, it was just...
So it just deteriorated everything.
Basically.
Remember you saying everything just twisted and like all your teeth were like rearranged and...
Basically, yeah.
They look a lot better now, by the way.
Oh, this has been... Oh,
better.
Bless you, thank you.
Yeah.
This has been about a year of... I had braces, so I still kind of got like... I still wear a retainer now. So yeah, there was a huge period afterwards. And even with braces, I had to learn how to speak. So I was doing all the media interviews. Wow. And I kind of had like a bit of a weird lisp, and people were like, oh, look what he's done. And, you know, isn't he amazing? And I was like, oh, no, like I'm in pieces. So I think it's been really nice since to be quite honest about that, because I think people see athletic feats and stuff, but they don't see the aftermath. Yeah.
No one sees the sacrifice.
No.
They just see the result.
It's exactly it. Yeah. And I think even now, it's sometimes interesting when people will say, you know, what's next? And I'm like, I'm still recovering, or you know, spending time with the family that I miss. You know? Yeah. So it's like, and this is actually, I mean, I was going to speak to you about this. It's kind of like, I think you have to be in the right frame of mind to go on another journey like that. And the reason I say journey is because I think similarly with your boxing, I think you had to be in the right frame of mind to go, okay, cool, I'm now going to put, you know, this part of my life aside to go into fight camp and everything like that. And I suppose, because I wanted to ask you, why was it, and what was it appealed about boxing? Because I know we spoke and you were like, I could go back into strongman. The weights that you were shifting in the gym, you could go back and be so competitive at World's Strongest Man, but you didn't want to. You just enjoyed it, and you were doing it for intrinsic reasons. The process was its own reward. But what was it about boxing that you were like, I could do that?
You know what, for me, throughout my life, I've sort of done a lot of sports. So in the youth I was a GB swimmer, on sort of like the junior Olympic team, if you want to call it that. That all fell through some mental health troubles. And then I got into the bodybuilding, and I got to a stage in bodybuilding where I was like, you know what, I'm too big, I'm too tall to do well in bodybuilding. So that got scrapped. It just seems as though I take a sport on, I do as best as I can at it, and then I move on. And I did that with the strongman. I got into strongman. I think that was to date. Obviously, the biggest challenge I've set myself was going to become the world's strongest man. It took me 10 years in total. 10 years of solid, you know, strongman training and competing in strongman. And then, I suppose, literally the day after I won the world's strongest man, I'm ringing my pals up, and I'm ringing. You know, I've got a few mentors, you know, I'm sure you've got some mentors in life, ringing them up, you know, what shall I do next? And I actually wanted to do Olympic weightlifting.
No way!
Yeah, so I wanted to do the clean and jerk and all that kind of stuff. But I had about a month after I won the World's Strongest Man, I had a very severe hip injury that literally put me in a wheelchair for a couple of weeks. And that sort of threw that out the window. So, and a bit like yourself, done a lot of sort of capitalising, a lot of touring, a lot of, talks, evening whibs, sort of lots of media stuff. And then TV shows, and then, I've just been itching, like the last 2 or 3 years, been doing all that, and just been itching to, as you say, just to get back into something, give myself some drive, something to focus on. And when this fight opportunity came around, I was just like, perfect, absolutely perfect. I can put all my focus back into something again. I can train, I can knock someone out of a hate, earn a lot of money in the process, and then who knows where that career is going to go, because we are creating a super heavyweight title for boxing. We're one up in the heavyweights. So we're creating a title where you've got to weigh 315 plus pounds to compete in. So whoever wins out of this fight, which I know will be me, has got to defend that title. So it's almost as if I'm just starting a whole new career again, and it's really intriguing me, and I'm really enjoying just sort of being obsessive again.
Yeah.
Resetting the goals and pushing forward.
Why boxing? What is it about that though? Because you said about the Olympic lifting, so when coming back from injury, you could have gone back to that, but why?
I suppose in my youth, a lot of my heroes were from boxing. Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, especially Muhammad Ali. I just loved his charisma more than anything, and what he did with the sport, and I just felt as though I've always wanted to do boxing. Always wanted to sort of be in the ring and smashing people up. So I guess it's like the World's Strongest Man. I sort of had that image when I was like 5 years old. I remember saying to my mum and dad, I'll be the World's Strongest Man one day. And my mum and dad and brothers burst out laughing, like, of course you will, lad, of course you will. And it stuck there. It stuck there from the age of 5. And I think it's one of those other images of like watching Muhammad Ali and watching, take backs of like Mike Tyson. And it just stuck here. And I just want to be that guy.
So will you be done after this, or are you already thinking to carry on?
I'm already thinking to carry on. I'm already thinking to beat the living hell out of 4, and then let's take it a step further. But
wow, okay.
We'll see. I can see my wife over there giving me absolute daggers.
Oh, no.
Literally just burning a hole in the side of my head.
That's interesting. I wasn't expecting that, because I thought it was a bit of a grudge match, which it is,
to an extent.
But equally, I like that this got a higher purpose in some ways as well. That's quite cool.
Yeah. 100%.
And anybody else who, because I saw as well, as soon as you posted, a few other people. I saw Maris Pudzianowski. He was part of that,
I think everyone wants in.
Yeah,
they see those 7-figure deals, and everyone wants a chunk, don't they? So, and I genuinely mean this. Every single man and his dog that had thrown a punch in their entire life got in touch, wanting to train me up, be my partner, be my promoter, fight me next, fight on the undercard. It was ridiculous. The response we had when we announced the fight was well above and beyond what I ever expected. It was crazy, absolutely crazy.
But I think that's what's been kind of good now. Like in some ways, it's that like the economics, the commercialization of sport, being a true prize fighter, essentially. That if you're going to bring in this many eyeballs and sell this many tickets, you earn this much.
Yes.
And yes, granted, skill is a part of that. But I've been fascinated by it. I know you watch the UFC as well, but looking at someone like Conor McGregor, the Conor McGregor model, it's kind of just like, okay, he brought in that many eyeballs, and that's why he was asking for equity.
He's almost bigger than UFC now.
It got weird, didn't it?
Yeah, it got to the point where he didn't need the UFC. UFC needed him.
Yeah.
He really got to that stage.
So but speaking to you, you almost like that. You like the economics of it, which I find so interesting. With the Japanese, they have that concept, your ikigai, and your ikigai being your reason for being, your purpose in life. Why you get up in the morning. And what I love about what you've done is your ikigai made up of 4 things. So what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. And I think with what you're doing, sometimes it's hard to commercialize it. And you can, you can go and have a tear up, but you kind of like, I need to be paid. You've got a family, so there's that. And it's weird how strongman was your ikigai.
Yes.
And now being the super heavyweight champ is going to be your ikigai, because you're going to be paid well for it. You love it, you're good at it. What the world needs, entertainment, inspiring people,
Yeah.
So would you say it's kind of got that
100%, yeah. It's definitely got that meaning to me, for
Yeah.
sure. Definitely, yeah. It means a lot more to me than money. That's for sure. Yeah, it's like we've talked about in the past with like the mental health aspects, and I think you're the same in some ways. You've got to keep your mind sort of pushing forward, keep driven, otherwise you get distracted and these dark thoughts come in maybe, or you get a bit drifted, sit on TV for a few weeks, watch TV.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's easy to become that person, and I don't want to be that person. I want to be I want to be the Muhammad Ali. I want to be the great, you know.
Yeah, I like what you said there, because I read a lot of philosophy, and I've spoken about it quite a lot right now with eudaimonia, and Aristotle talked about this idea of eudaimonia because he said happiness, it's not a great word. It doesn't really do it justice what you're trying to achieve. So he used this word eudaimonia, which basically is, he believed that happiness without fulfillment is failure. Right. What he meant by this was, with eudaimonia, his term for happiness, it's that you've got to suffer for it. You've got to suffer to be happy. You've got to labour. You've got to struggle. But now people just kind of just want to be happy. You know, they just want to be given $1 million. They don't want to earn $1 million. And what I love, what you just said there, for me, I love the process. I love the struggle. So, and if I don't have that, sometimes I'm a little bit like, if I'm down the gym and I'm not training for anything, I'm like, I'm not happy.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
So when people say like, why did you pick to swim around Great Britain? It was just like, because it was such a stupid goal that you had to train so hard for it. And I suppose it's the same with what you're doing.
Yeah, but you've made such a great living off the back of that.
Yeah, unintentionally.
Unintentionally, yeah.
Sort of, yeah.
Unintentionally, but I'd imagine in the back of your head, it's like me winning the World's Strongest Man. In some ways, I always knew winning the World's Strongest Man is not going to make me, you know, in a comfortable place to look after my wife and kids. But it put me in a position to be able to. It opened those pathways, opened those doors, and that's what swimming around the UK did for you.
Yeah, that's a good point actually, because it was the same with writing the book. I just wanted to do it almost to get closure on it, to try and process it myself, and then putting it into words. It's just done so well as a book, which I didn't really expect, because it was more therapy for me, but loads of people were saying, oh wow, I really
so how many hundreds of thousands of copies? Art of Resilience, isn't it?
That was it. Yeah. So it's only just launched in America, so it was a nice problem to have, but it did so well here, hitting the Sunday Times bestseller list, that we had to fulfill the copies here.
Right, before you could launch over there.
It's kind of it, which is a nice problem to have.
Yeah, wow.
But it's just nice that people have reached out and said that feeling of an athletic adventure. This is weird, I'm going off on a tangent here, but it was 10 years ago now, I lived with the Yamabushi monks in Japan. And they, I'm going somewhere with this. So they go on what's called an okugaki, and it's a pilgrimage basically. And you do a marathon a day in the mountains, you drink green tea, you meditate under ice cold waterfalls. And it's this whole idea of self-discovery through self-discipline. Yeah. Which you're essentially doing, when it's like, what? But why do you want to, you know, become world's strongest man? Why do you want to put your body through that? Why do you want to now go and get punched in the face and go into fight camp? Again, self-discovery through self-discipline. And the Yamabushi have been doing it years. And when I was on this okugaki, they told me, I was like, you know, this is pretty brutal. And they turned to me and they were like, yeah, it's not as bad as the Tandai monks, the marathon monks. And I said, well, what do you mean? And they said, and this story kind of still haunts me, but in a good way. This is going to sound weird, but they, when we were going across this mountain, we saw graves basically just kind of sporadically around. I said, what's that? And they said, oh, that's the marathon monks. History basically says that they used to run 1,000 marathons in 1,000 days.
Wow.
Now, it's this whole pilgrimage you go on, this idea of, you know, spiritual journey. After, I believe it was 100 days, you could basically bow out. You could go up to the chief monks and say, oh, this isn't quite for me, I'm struggling a little bit. And they'd say, okay, no problem, you can bow out. And, you know. But after that, after those 100, the chief monks, this is historically, it doesn't happen now, but they would hand you a small sword and a rope. And they basically said that is symbolic of the fact that you're either going to now finish these 1,000 marathons in 1,000 days, or you're going to have to take your own life.
Wow.
And being told this story, I was sleep deprived, I was hungry, I was going on my own okugaki, I was like, oh. But it was that idea of how seriously we humans have taken it, looking at the anthropology of his humans and the history, there's always been examples of it. So when people kind of are trying to make sense of mine and your lifestyle in some ways, I sit there and I quite often tell them about the marathon monk, saying, well, we've always been doing it.
Yeah.
Self-discipline for self-discovery. It's fascinating. And I think that's the thing for anyone watching. You don't have to be super heavyweight boxer, world's strongest man, don't have to float around Great Britain, but there'll be something that people can uniquely do.
Yeah.
And I just think everybody should suffer. Everyone should pick something. Everyone should, Joe Rogan talks about it a lot, that idea, and even Einstein, I think, when Einstein says adversity introduces you to you. And it's that idea that in your like really dark moments, again actually here at Manly Mere almost, when we did our ice swim, you're like, oh, you find out things about yourself. And then you ended up getting straight back in the evening. But most people wouldn't have done. But the very fact you did, you went home and was like, I didn't let sub 4 degree water beat me. I think it's fascinating.
So I want to go rewind a little bit there. So you went and spent some time with these marathon monks.
Yeah.
Right. So 1,000 marathons in 1,000 days. How many did you do?
Oh, so that was I did the Okugaki, which is almost like the kids' version. Well, that was like a marathon a day, drinking green tea, meditating under ice cold waterfalls, but there was no necessarily those like 1,000. It wasn't,
right.
And there's a term for their Okugaki, the Tandai monks, which I can't pronounce, but yeah, it was just this idea that for me it was wow, and people go to me, you're crazy, someone around it, I'm like, no, look at this. So but yeah, we've been doing it, even looking at with the Aborigines going walkabout, with like the Maasai tribe going and killing a lion traditionally, to that almost passage into manhood. You've just done it a different way, whether you knew it or not, and I think when I was swimming around Great Britain, I think stories like that played on in my head, that I was just like,
keep pushing.
Keep pushing. And also, like, I'm not even that unique. People have been doing this years. Yeah, it's weird.
It's weird. When you speak of it like, it's pretty weird.
Yeah,
it's pretty weird. You are weird. Let's be honest with each other. So, right. So, of all the things you've done, okay, would you say swimming around the UK is the hardest?
Oh yeah, just also because I think it was different going from being an athlete to an adventurer, because when you're deadlifting half a ton, the mat doesn't move, the weight doesn't change, no one's like throwing jellyfish in your face as you're deadlifting, whereas for me it was knowing that I could try so hard and have nothing left to give, but if Mother Nature turned around and sent any more hurricanes, we swam through 2 hurricanes, if they sent 2 more, then like the swimming pool would have been closed. And I think that was quite hard to come to terms with, that sometimes you've just got to go, it's not for me today. And I think that's weird. But also, and I want to ask you this, because I was in pieces coming down the East Coast. I was, my body was like struggling. I talk about it in the book as well. I've got some really news about, my dad, so that was playing on in my head and everything. And I remember we got to Grimsby and I was not thinking of like giving up, because we'd done it all, if that makes sense, but I remember just being like, I just want to go back to land, I don't want to see my dad, and then I'll give him a hug and I can come back and finish the swim. And, my dad, who like was thinking so stoically, even though I wasn't, I was thinking very emotionally, and he was just like, you can't come back. He didn't start his immunotherapy or anything, so he was like, there's no point you coming back. So he was like stronger than me, and that's another thing that I wanted to be so honest in the book about, that some people were like, oh, well done, Ross, you were so mentally tough. I was like, no, I wasn't, like, I was. But what was interesting is my dad and my family, my brothers were like, you might as well finish it, because what's weird is even if I'd swum 1,700 miles at this point, and he said, if you don't finish it, you'll always be the guy who didn't swim all the way around Great Britain. You said you'd do it, and even though you'd swum around England, Wales, Ireland, Scotland, and had the world's longest sea swim, you have to finish it. And I suppose it's the same in some ways, that time after time, you put your neck on the line. You have nothing left to prove. Like after the world's strongest, you could walk away. You'd just but you're still gonna put. I mean, let's be honest with the fight. It's not just money. You know, it's bragging rights. It's reputation. It's legacy in a way as well. So I suppose my question to you is. How do you repeatedly put your neck on the line?
I suppose for me, it's that challenge, you know, the challenge of proving to my children that hard work and dedication leads to great things, and to be that example for my kids keeps me pushing forward in that respect. Putting your neck on the line is an easy thing to do, but putting your neck on the line and then backing up your bull is a hard thing to do, you know, so...
Especially in the day and age of social media.
Oh,
that's,
yeah.
That's what's fascinating about how this whole fight has come around, because I think with trolls going,
God. You know what? In all honesty, I see it as this: I've got nothing to lose. I really haven't. You know, I've won the world's strongest man, done the half-ton deadlift, loving life. For me, I'm fighting a giant. I'm fighting a 6'10" guy who's the biggest man in the world, who's scary as hell to everybody else. To me, he's just a guy that called me a cheat that I need to smash his teeth out and teach him a lesson. That's it. If it works out the way around, what have I got to lose? Like, whatever, I had to go. Whatever. The guy's a giant. But I'm not thinking like that. I'm thinking of him as he's a normal guy that has done the same things that I've done. There's no difference in us, no difference whatsoever. So I just want to teach this guy a lesson. And that's the simple fact of it. I want to teach this guy a lesson, and that sets an example to my kids, not let people take the piss out of you, and it sets an example to the rest of the world as well, not to let people take the piss out of you.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. I think also as well, having known you for a while now, I think what's so nice is the your family, your social network around you. I think that's also important as well, that you realise. Because it's when you're winning, you just said it, you know, yourself, when you announced it, everyone was like reaching out to you, and I think it's so interesting. I think it was Daniel Cormier, I think there was a UFC fighter, and they said, you know, when I won the world title, my phone blew up. It was unbelievable. He said, and when he lost, I think it was Daniel Cormier. I hope this story stuck with me, because they said when I lost, I finished and I went to the dressing room, my face was banged up, and I looked, and he said he had 2 missed calls. One was unknown and one was his mum. You know, it was just that idea of, wow. And I think
you
that's...
hear that a lot.
Yes. And I think I'm sort of the same now, in that I'm just like, I know if everything, you know, doesn't go to plan or whatever like that, it's nice that you have that network.
Of course.
You know? And that's what's really nice, actually, that you become... and this is going again off on a tangent ever so slightly, but the Royal Marines, I remember I met with one of their chief psychiatrists, one of their performance coaches, and this always stuck with me. And he said, like, Ross, on the GB swim, he said, you need to think like a ninja. And I was like, I'm all ears. I was like, what do you mean? And he said, like, because a ninja had made peace with the fact that the worst case scenario is they die in a fight. And they were okay with that. Like the Spartans, they were like, that's an honourable death. There's nothing. I'm not afraid of it. So when they were actually competing, they were just concentrating on swinging their sword as efficiently as the other person. They weren't scared, because they were like, I'm not scared because I might die, and that's okay with me. And it's that idea of negative visualization. And I think that's one thing that has been so nice now, you know, watching you do the half-ton deadlift, but now since getting to know you and stuff, it's this idea that actually the worst case scenario isn't that bad. You're kind of like, it's okay regardless. And that's when I think you actually become bulletproof. And I know you speak about mental health quite a lot, and that
I like that you say that ninja mentality, because people forget 5 years ago I was under a truck fixing lorries.
Was it 5?
5 years ago.
Wow.
Still 5 years ago.
Because that was, and I loved how honest the first film. It was.
And I hated it.
Oh no.
I absolutely hated it. I hated working for somebody else. I hated working for a big company, making big companies money. You know, I did door work as well, and that was horrendous. You know, working the security, running door companies. You know, you get no end of police. I had no end of trouble from the door company. You know, what my staff had caused. Hated my life, and I mean that. I hated my life, and I said to myself, and I said it lots and lots of times, if you don't see me on that #1 spot at World's Strongest Man, I either died trying or a doctor told me to stop. And I suppose it's that mentality, like you just said. It's that suicide.
Yeah.
It's either I'm going to be world's strongest man or I'm going to die. And that was it. I had to break free from that 9 to 5 sort of day-to-day society, because it wasn't. I couldn't do it, Ross. Couldn't do it, mate. It was killing me. I used to come home every single night, leave the house at 6:30 in the morning. I wouldn't get back into the house till 10, half 10 at night every single day, like Monday to Saturday, and then Sundays are, you know, a bit of a free day, whatever. But I was always so knackered, I ended up sleeping all day Sundays. So I hated my life. So I suppose that ninja mentality is a great way of putting it. You know, I genuinely, you know, I had a lot of scares going for that title, and I genuinely wasn't bothered.
Really?
Yeah, and doctors did tell me to stop. I just didn't tell anyone. I just kept going.
Can I ask what scares?
But a few heart scares, organs like liver, kidneys, and stuff like that. So
just the readings coming back, like just going
readings were
that
off the charts. Off the charts. I think one of the worst ones was kidney markers were well off the charts. You know, to the point where it's like, listen, buddy, you know, another few weeks of this and you're gone. I had some really bad heart scares, but it was more along the lines of overdosing on stuff. So like, I got potassium poisoning one time from drinking too much bloody coconut water. Because I was so dehydrated.
I was worried about it because 649 bananas on the base. So doctors were genuinely worried as well. But I was going, but my tongue can't have anything else.
Yeah.
So that's weird. Okay.
So stuff like that. Just I think 5 weeks before I won the World's Strongest Man, I failed my ECG, which is like the standard medical to go to the World's Strongest Man. I ended up going to have a full echogram, like a full heart scan, and they said, you know, they've got a few discrepancies, but you're okay. We will let you compete. But the doctor that gave me the news is like, mate, if I were you, I wouldn't. You know, I wouldn't do it. And I was like, well, I've got 5 weeks. You know, I'm going to be World's Strongest Man. Or I'm going to die. One or the other.
So you took it close to the edge.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I was willing to. You've got to.
But that's
if I didn't have that mentality, then maybe I'd have come second, maybe I'd come third, maybe I'd have bowed out, maybe myself and never gone.
Yeah, do you know what? Like, because the thing is there'll be so many people watching this who are like, what? But like, I get it in that, like, impermanence, this whole, like, and again, I'm going off on a tangent here, but when you start looking at Tibetan philosophy, like they have a completely different, and an Eastern philosophy has a different outlook on death. You know, that it's not something that's feared. You know, they talk about it openly and everything like that. And I think, you know, that idea that we're not going to be around forever. You know, we're all dying. Some are just doing it, you know, faster or slower than others. And I kind of like that whole idea that if you hadn't done it, like, would you now still be under a car? You know, and then mental health, like, it gets weird.
Where would I be now if I hadn't won the World's Strongest Man? You know, back fixing lorries, back killing myself, back maybe hanging from the rafters. You don't know, you know, you really don't know.
But it's because, and I know he's a good friend of yours, but Schwarzenegger, when he was, I think it was Howard Stern, there was a radio interview, and he said, like, I'm not afraid of death. He just said, I'm just angry that I've got to die. And I thought it was really interesting. Because he's winning. He's you know, he's done a lot, and he probably just wants to
live forever, see his kids grow up. He's just had his first grandkid.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And so it really stuck with me. But I was, you know, and so I'm like, it sounds weird, but I think at this moment in time, you know, sort of post GB swim, pre next adventure, you know, with everything that's happening, I'm kind of like where you were at, I think, in some ways, between your, well, what was weird is actually the deadlift in front of Arnold, when you did the 4-6.
So 462, 3.
The world record. Then everyone was like, well, that's it, that's amazing. But then you went to do the half ton and World's Strongest Man. I feel in some ways maybe the GB swim was my... That
was your World's Strongest Man?
No, maybe my...
Your 500?
No, my 4-6.
Oh, right, so you've got 2 more big ones to come. What's the next one? Going to swim around the world?
Well, we're throwing some ideas around, and it's just like... So yeah, like, and you know, I'll talk to you more about it off air, but yeah, there's a few... That's what's been like so cool getting to know you for me, because I just kind of, I look at what you've done, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if my GB swim was my half-ton deadlift or my 4, 6, 7.
Fucking, I know which I'd rather do. Jesus. I'll tell you what, buddy. Let's try and stink this up a bit. Let's rewind it to like youth. So, primary school, high school. Did you go through them? No trouble.
Yeah,
Were you a good kid?
Yeah. I think that's what's weird actually as well, because a lot of people sometimes they're looking for like some dark.
Yeah,
like,
well, that's what I'm going to try to find now.
Yeah, and honestly, I've been trying myself as well, but like,
Mum and dad.
Yeah.
Still alive, all still together?
Yeah. I mean,
brothers, sisters?
Celebrated their 40th wedding anniversary.
That's good.
Last year. Two brothers, older, younger one.
Yeah.
So supportive.
You're the middle.
Yeah. And
middle brother's always the twin. It's just fact of life.
So this is what's weird, because people have constantly been like, what you must do it for some, reason inside and stuff, and I'm like, no, the only thing that my research, because I've been asking the same question about myself, I'm like, maybe I am wired a bit wrong. Maybe, maybe there's something really dark in my past. Yeah. I wish there was, because it's just a little bit weird that I'm just like, I think I just loved swimming. So when people were like, oh my God, how did you do that? I'm like, yeah, it's easy to talk about your tongue falling off and everything, but swimming with minke whales, swimming with like seals off Lundy Island, swimming across the Moray Firth, no one had ever done that before. So just being there under the stars and being like, this is pretty cool. No human's ever done this before. For me, was quite nice. So maybe, I don't know. And also, like, this sounds weird, but I'm quite a simple person. I don't need a lot to keep me happy. So I actually love the simplicity of the swim. So I would just wake up every single day and I just needed to know what was for dinner and what the tides were doing. But back on land, it's hard. You've got like mortgage, you got all that. So maybe it was that. You
were a competitive swimmer?
Yeah.
Younger, so you're in swimming squads?
Yeah, but was always a little bit too short, to make it.
Did you do that with your brothers?
No, so that was what was weird. Older brother footballer, younger brother Capoeira, so Brazilian martial art.
Capoeira.
Yeah, Brazilian martial. And this is the thing. My mum and dad. Dad's a tennis coach. Mum was a sprinter. One granddad in the military. Other granddad a marathon runner. So I just.
It's a very sporty family, really.
Yeah, and that's it actually. So, like for us at Sunday dinner, you are talking about sport, or you're not talking about anything.
Yeah.
So growing up,
go sit on the other table.
No, it was. So for me, it was just this idea of when I said, thinking about the GB swim, my mum and dad were like, yeah, cool, okay, looking at the map and where they could visit, and so maybe I'm a byproduct of just being a sport fanatical family, but I think I'm also a product of my mum and dad like being so supportive, and my brothers that even when I come up with like really weird ideas, they're just like, oh, go on, Ross, here's some cheesecake, off you go. Whereas if I had a less supportive family or a more cynical family, they'd go, but that's a terrible idea. Yeah. Because what's weird is if I knew what I knew now, I honestly I don't know if I would. I would have probably still done the GB swim, but people don't understand that we had the best summer of 40 years. It was unbelievable, and you needed that. People were like saying it's impossible to swim around Great Britain.
Stars had to be aligned for that to happen.
So much, yeah. And people who know about sailing actually come up to me and they say, "Wow, you had then made something." And Matt, Captain Matt, like absolute legend. We speak all the time, and he said, last year we wouldn't have made it. Yeah. He knows, and this year he said we wouldn't have made it. So it's weird. He knows that I wouldn't give up. I'd swim tide after tide, but he was like, but so many stars aligned. So even some people saying like, I'd love to do the GB swim. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. But like, honestly speaking, like if I detailed what you had to do, invest the time, and it gets interesting. I think probably a lot of people, strong young guys, coming up to you in the gym, and if you were really honest and they went, I want to be world's strongest man, like just be honest with me, Eddie, I'll do anything. And you go, oh, anything, and then you're like, here's a scan of my heart 5 weeks out. Like no deal. And I think that's what's weird, to talk honestly about it. And this is one of the most honest sort of podcasts I've ever done, because I can, because you're obviously a mate. But yeah, it's weird now, even knowing that if someone said do a second lap, I'd be like,
No.
I feel
Yeah.
Poseidon, Mother Nature, someone was looking out for me.
Where did you grow up? Around here?
Grantham. Yeah,
Grantham, where's
so
that?
near Nottingham.
Nottingham area. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
not a million miles from.
So semi-posh.
I don't know if Grandma's posh. I mean, Margaret Thatcher was from there.
Well, she's posh.
Isaac Newton went to my school.
Very posh.
It's
There we
not.
go.
But yeah,
Private school, public school.
it was a grammar school, so you had to pass an exam to get in, but not like private or anything like that.
okay.
Yeah. So that's what is.
Rough. Any roughy cuffs for growing up? Fighting, bullying.
Again, like
I'm trying to find a
No,
trigger here.
No, I know. I've been trying to find it as well. Water polo, and I think the thing is, because when I was told I was too short to be a swimmer, and I really was. I was like 13, and everyone else was just growth spurt. I stayed the same. I'm still waiting for my growth spurt.
It'll come, mate. Don't worry.
Thank you. It never happened. I was like, all right. So then I ended up playing water polo, because I think what I liked is the fact that I was always, semi-strong, and in swimming, if you lost, you just had to go like, you beat me, and shake their hand. But in water polo, you could actually have a little bit of a fight. You could do something about it.
Yeah.
So that was it. But not even a fight. I mean, I chat to Dan Hardy, and he is like on another level. And I think what's interesting is the way that you talk about strength-based sports, I talk about endurance. Dan talks the same about fighting. And he's such a philosopher about it. This story always stuck with me, because I said, like, how do you go in there? Like, what's the mentality like? And he said, Ross, I used to fold my clothes really neatly, and perfect like that. And then I'd go out to war. And I was like, why did you fold your clothes neatly? And he said, because if I came out and won, I was just going to get dressed really easily. But if I went to hospital, or something worse happened, it was easier for my family, because they could just go and pick up my clothes that were nice. So he had that mentality that
Wow.
he was going out on his shield, or victorious. And so speaking to Dan, I was like, yeah, I don't have that. Like, I'm not getting in the cage. So it's weird for me even seeing you going and doing your boxing, because I'm like, I probably would do a second lap rather than get in the boxing ring.
Yeah.
Which is weird. So I always feel it's like you have a niche that you're willing to suffer for. You have a specific sort of okugaki, a pilgrimage that you're willing to suffer for. You did it with World's Strongest Man, and then you sat there and went boxing. Yeah, I'm willing to suffer. And also with your family as well. You're going like, they're collectively willing to do it.
That's another thing we should touch on, really, is what people like us do to our families.
Yeah.
And it is, people think, it's all great, it's all hunky-dory, it's all hugs and kisses behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It can be tough.
Yeah.
How long have you been with your girlfriend for?
Is she behind me?
No.
So no, I've been with Hester 7 years.
7 years.
7 years.
So she was there for the GB swim?
8 years.
Oh yeah, I've been told 8 years in December.
There you go, coming up to 8.
Yeah, like this is, I genuinely mean it. So like, the weird thing is like Hester would be coming on the boat every other week, and just seeing me getting like more feral, like just like my wetsuit.
Deteriorating.
Oh, like wetsuit just smelt of urine, which was hanging up in the cabin. Like it was bad. And she's been. I did I ran 1,000 miles barefoot in a month. My toenails were falling off. But I was so exhausted, I'd come home and I'd sit there like that on the sofa, and I could see my toenail hanging off. I'll be like that, and she'd be like, that's disgusting. And I'll go, I'm too tired. I'm just going to sleep. So she would pull the toenail off and bathe them so they didn't go septic, because she knew if I fell asleep, they would go septic, and I still had another marathon to run in the morning. So I would just be like that. So it's it's weird how again, actually, like you said, it's not an individual sport. No. So I think that's probably one of the weirder things that Hester's done for me. I mean, is there anything is there anything where you're like, there's literally very few people I could call upon to help me in this moment of need, and you've had to do it with I mean, your brothers as well. I met
I mean, my brothers have been pretty, you know, they've lived their lives sort of thing, but they've, you know, they've been good supporters from a distance. Mum and dad, again, very good supporters, but sort of left me to it. You know, I can tell sometimes, you know, especially when I was at my biggest, when I was like 433 pounds, which is about 32 stone. You know, I remember, you know, my mum and dad just be like, "You're right, Ed." You know, I'd go around for family barbecues and stuff, and I'd just be like leaning over the tables, just like, and my mum would be like, "I think you're getting a bit too big." I'd be like, "No such thing as too big." You just know you're putting that worry in there, but they would never say stop. They would never ask you to stop because they knew it was something that I had to do. You know, I had to be in that sort of state to be the world's strongest man, sort of thing. And the wife was exactly the same. It was put up with it. Basically, it's my decision, and she was basically, I mean, it's horrible to say, a bit of a slave for me. You know, it's. I mean, we loved each other, obviously, but it was a very military lifestyle, and I'm sure you can reconcile with that. Is I wasn't seeing my wife and kids for any more than half an hour a week, and that went on for about the best part of 2 years. Wow. And that's been sincere. You know, Sundays I'd try and have Sundays off, and I'd spend the whole day doing my hot and cold and stretching and physio and sleeping. I was just so knackered from the Monday to Saturday of working and training and whatever else. So yeah, we've had some really hard, tough times, and I think the 5 weeks before the World's Strongest Man, it got really bad, to the point where it was basically she moved out because it was just walking up, but it got to the point where it just got too much. It got too much, and it was like, right, go away, I'm going to do a camp now, I'm going to win the World's Strongest Man, then everything will be better. And it kind of worked out, but but all the lead up to that was hell on earth.
Because you were even saying like sleep apnea and everything like that. Like going to bed and going, I might not wake up.
I didn't know, exactly that. I didn't know I had sleep apnea until 2015. And I say, I was a truck mechanic, so we're taking the trucks for an MOT, and I'd be driving to the MOT station, and a car horn would wait. I'd fall asleep at the truck wheel, and I'd be like hanging out the window, and a car horn would sound, bloody hell, and then I'd just like rush through a traffic light. It was that bad. I was so tired. So yeah, it's definitely got its ups and downs with having a partner by its side. But if I didn't have that support network, if I didn't have Alex there doing the food, doing the cleaning, the washing, the drying, looking after the house, looking after the kids, I wouldn't be anybody. I wouldn't be able to do anything that I was able to do.
I love what you said there as well, just because going back to what we talked about before, there was an interview actually with Steve Jobs, and I remember they said, what advice would you give to anybody or to your younger self or something like that? And he said, I wouldn't. He said, because if I knew what you had to sacrifice, I don't think you'd do it. And he just talked about the silly, like stupid hours that he had to work, and he just said exactly the same thing. And I think there is probably that element of like stubborn naivety, blind optimism, that if you actually knew, or somebody put down on paper and said, to be world's strongest man you need to do that, that you might go, oh, you know, that's not rational, it's not logical, like no one's ever going to do that. And I think that's exactly the same actually, that certainly with the GB swim, it was like you need to train for years, you know, to be able to, you know, eat 10,000, 15,000 calories, control the breakdown of the body, cope with like lacerations to the neck, tongue, everything like that, and do all of that, but also make peace with the fact that if Mother Nature decides you're not going to do it, you have to walk away. It's a weird mindset. And I think you have to be. That's why I said at the start, you know, naive enough to start, stubborn enough to finish. And a lot of people, it resonated with a lot of people. But I was like, but when you truly know what I meant when I said that, it's like naive enough to start, but not like naive. I'm like, I was stupid to start, but when I was in it, I was like, well, you finish it now, Ross, because all the cameras are on you, and you've told
you
people.
Put the pressure on yourself.
Yeah. What have we got today, by the way?
What we're doing today after this?
Yeah, Navy SEAL.
Yeah, we're going to do some stupid Navy SEAL. So get this right. I was doing a 5K this morning. And then Ross rings me up, it's like, do you fancy doing a 10k run with 40 kilo on your back? It's like, yeah. So here we are, just about to wrap it up now and go and do a 10k run with 40 kilo on our back, and then do a Navy SEAL fitness test straight after.
And then there's talk of a water park as well.
And there's talk of a cheesecake.
There is talk of a cheesecake. I'm just a little bit worried because they've got that seesaw thing on the water park.
Right.
But I just don't think they've accounted for you turning up. So that's going to be interesting.
I'm a very, very slender 26 stone at the minute, Ross. 166 kilo or 365 pounds for any Americans out there.
You look fantastic.
Very slender.
Oh man, I've liked this. This has been a good podcast. We could make this into a regular.
I think we should come to
like a picnic.
Manly Mere and
picnics and podcasts.
picnics and podcasts.
With Eddie Hall and
ice
Ross
creams.
Edgley.
Yeah.
No, honestly I've enjoyed this actually because it's been so nice to speak to somebody who has taken it quite far. You know, in there, you know, and then there's very few people basically on earth who I can chat to. Like,
it's rare you can meet someone that's sort of put themselves through that hardship to be where they are today.
Yeah,
definitely, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can. Yeah. Nice to know you, buddy.
You're all right. You're
all right.
You're all right.
Right. I think we'll wrap that up there. But Ross, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, well, I say that now. Yeah,
now we're going to go and absolutely rape each other over an obstacle course and military testing and whatever else. So there we go, guys. If you're not following Ross Edgley, hit him up on Instagram. You got a YouTube channel as well, ain't you, Ross Edgley?
I do.
Hit him up on YouTube as well, and we'll see you soon. Don't forget to like that video, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care. Big love, the beast.
Thank you.